I'm currently on a Twitter timeout. I got a 12-hour timeout for calling Pwn, WTF, BBBQ, Drinky McDrinkerton.
You should be called Liar McLiarson. In fact, you have been called that by 3 courts. You've been ruled a brazen, malicious liar by 3 courts. 1 federal and 2 Washington state courts where you live, because you have a habit and a court track record of lying about people who you don't like for any reason whatsoever. You want to call them racists and child molesters and Nazis, anybody who so much as flips you the bird in traffic is a Nazi in your book. You have absolutely no restraint when it comes to lying about people and spreading your lies as far as you can. And that's why you owe more than $500,000.
She started trying to dox me all over again.
Now, you might want to have a conversation about why you don't like this lady, this woman online, and that's fine. And I'm sure that, like any person, you're going to be able to point out things about her that she's not proud of or she shouldn't be proud of. But none of that changes the fact that the reason you're going after her is because she's exposing you for the fraud that you are. She's saying truthful things about you, but rather than discuss those things in themselves, you want to go and dig up anything you can find about that person to distract your audience from the truthful claims they're making about you. And if you can't find something to dig up, you'll simply lie.
It's all because she sent me a bunch of messages, which I didn't see because they were not just in the hidden folder, but like in the hidden folder. And basically she was begging to come on my show. I never saw them.
That's what you are, Liar McLiarson.
Wade made at least 1 post after the state judgment, which had enjoined him from doing so. That post is at page 37 of Admitted Exhibit P2. Although Wade testified he was not aware of the state judgment when he made that post, the context of the post suggests otherwise, given the wording of the question Wade was responding to.
So you didn't, in fact, bankrupt him?
I wasn't the one who bankrupted him, no.
No, but you said you did.
Well, it's subjective in the phrasing I use. I mean, it may be hubris.
During the lawsuit that resulted in the state judgment, Wade lied about his communications with the prosecutor's office in an effort to get Nelson to pay Wade $50,000 and drop that lawsuit.
So again, during the 2019 deposition, you lied under oath, didn't you?
That is what you accused me of, yes.
Did the court also determine that?
The court did, yes.
And it was these statements regarding your communications with the prosecutor's office that was concluded to be a willing and knowing lie under oath by Judge Hauser, correct?
Well, that's what Hauser ruled, yes.
Yes.
All you do is lie, and not lie like people do in, everyday life. You are a massive mythomaniac. If you say something true, it's almost an accident. You lie so profusely to people who inexplicably listen to you, who have absolutely zero ability or desire to fact check anything you tell them. They just listen to you spew your nonsense without any evidence whatsoever, and they don't care. They just, Houston said it. So you could talk about Drinky McDrinkerson, but you're Liar McLiarson. And drinking, there's nothing wrong with drinking. There's always something wrong with lying.
And then one day she teams up with my stalker and starts just...
Yeah, she's not teamed up. The fact that 2 people on the internet agree that you're a liar does not make them a team. Okay? And let's make sure we get our terms correct here. A stalker in your world is anybody that you don't like saying truthful things about you. So you want to talk about how she wanted to get on your show because you're like apparently the Brian Gumble of YouTube or something with your 3,000 views or whatever it is you think you have. But you as this big public personality, micro niche celebrity in your little delusional world, if somebody wants to talk about you, this big public figure in your mind that you are, if they say something to other people that's truthful, hey, that Houston Wade guy happens to be a liar who declared bankruptcy after 3 courts ruled against him for lying. If someone says something truthful about you and they don't just shut the hell up when you tell them to, well, then that person's a stalker. They're stalking you because they're saying things truthful about you, exposing you. So that therefore somehow equates to stalking. But that's not what stalking is. Okay, words have meanings. Stalking is not when a person says something to somebody else that's truthful that you don't like. That's not stalking. Just like astronomy is not astrophysics.
Posting all sorts of stuff about me, and I went to message her to be like, hey, what the hell? Who the hell are you? And to discover she'd messaged me like 50 times begging to come on the show. And I was like, whoa. It's kind of like Moran's Rants did the same thing.
Yeah, 50 times. That's why you have no evidence to offer up on that. And obviously everybody wants to get on your show. I mean, who wouldn't want to be on the little inconsequential YouTube channel of a bankrupt waiter? I mean, my God, the line must be never ending.
So anyway, her account got deleted because she was like threatening and harassing people.
Right. And threatening and harassing in your world means they said something that you didn't like, you didn't agree with. They supported Donald Trump, or they mentioned that you're a court-ruled liar, or, whatever it is. So let's just keep that in mind when you make these false claims. Typically, provide the sauce if you got some, but typically, when you say a claim like that and you don't have any evidence because you don't need evidence in your world, why would you need evidence? Because all you do is make shit up.
And I didn't know she had a new account. And it posted a thing about, a sale of a Donald Trump mansion and how Pulte's uncle and Jeffrey Epstein were involved in the bidding. And asked a question, and she was like, oh, you again? And she started posting like 30 tweets about how I'm a liar because my undergraduate's in astronomy, yet I call myself an astrophysicist.
Yeah, except it's not the same thing. And it's only one of a bazillion examples of the fact that you are, in fact, a massive liar. That's what you are. Okay, beyond being a waiter, your biggest credential, if you could have a certificate framed on the wall, would be a certificate for lying. That should be on your wall.
And I tried to explain to her that it's the same thing. And she's like, you're just a big fat liar. And then she claimed she called my college where I teach to get me fired.
Well, if she did that, she's wasting her time because I don't even think they need to fire you. They simply just don't call you back for the 1 or 2 math classes that you might part-time teach at that community college. Okay, and let's get this straight as well. Okay, it's a community college and you're a part-time community college teacher on occasion. You're actually a waiter, which is why your bankruptcy lawyer, the one lawyer you've been able to get in this whole escapade of yours, told the judge you're a waiter.
My client just filed bankruptcy. He works as a waiter.
She didn't say astrophysicist or micro niche celebrity YouTube guy or reality TV star or geologist or any of that nonsense you like to spread. She said he's a waiter because that's what you are. But you're also a liar, and so you want to get online and fabricate all this crap because you feel insecure about who you are. Because the reality of who you are is you are a massive loser. Just a massive loser. I don't know anybody who has less accomplishments in their life than you. You're 43 years old. You still rent with roomies. You owe more than $700,000. How can you get to 43 years old and you don't have a pot to piss in, dude? You are a massive loser who has to make up all these stories online like, I was dating this girl or dating that girl. You've probably never touched a girl in your life. You reek of desperation and loserness. There's no woman who's going to ever want to touch you, and you know that. You're probably still a virgin.
And anyway, I called her Drinking McDrinkerton, and because She's an alcoholic. She's a repeat alcoholic. And if you guys know my history about how I feel about people who drive drunk over and over again, you'll understand my frustration with dealing with someone like that.
Yeah, I don't know if I understand your history. Let me tell you what I think I understand. What I think I understand is that a girl died 13 years ago, tragically. Then once a year, you post her picture, which looks like it was taken out of a news story, doesn't have you in it, and you spin these yarns about how it was your fiance and you guys were going to get married and all this, and what, like that explains why we've never seen you, anyone has ever seen you in a romantic relationship with a woman ever? Okay, because you're just, what, heartbroken from 13 years ago and blah, blah, blah. Now, I think the reality is probably closer to you're making it up. Here's a dead chick, and you can use her image and explain, you know, how you had this blissful, perfect life that was just snatched away from you, when the reality is no woman wants to get near you because you are a loser of epic proportions.
And there's some pretty spectacular video of her from 2020 drunk driving and getting in an astounding rollover on I-25. And it's not her first drunk driving incident. She's had multiple ones.
And I'm sure that's true because I've seen her apologize for that and talk about how awful those events were and how awful she was and how she regrets it and how she's changed her life. Now, regardless of the veracity of her claims or what she's done in the past, nothing there has anything to do with the fact that she's rolling over you constantly by exposing all your lies. But you don't want to talk about the fact that you're a liar, even though 3 courts have ruled you such, because that's all you do is lie. And in this video, I'm going to show a bunch of lies just from this little clip.
But yeah, so she's never going to come on the show, and she can suck a fat egg, and she needs to go to rehab. So that's what I have to say.
What is that? What are you, 3 years old?
So there you go. How'd you acquire a stalker? Asked Scott. I used to be one of the admins for a community page for Bainbridge Island on Facebook, and this dude showed up and started posting all these weird videos about one of the most cherished community volunteers we have on the island, who got the Japanese internment memorial built and does programs for kids about the Japanese internment. He's worked for Congress people. He's worked for mayors. He's now a city council member here on Bainbridge.
Talking about your friend, politician Clarence Moriwaki. Okay, he's a politician. He's corrupt and he's vile. And this whole thing with Clarence Moriwaki started because I posted opinions on Facebook publicly suggesting that he shouldn't be representing the memorial because he was misusing it. He was being dishonest. And he was not actually concerned with the mission of the memorial, which is let it not happen again. It's a memorial against indefinite detention without charge or trial. But yet he doesn't really care about that because he was a big proponent and he used to work for Governor Jay Inslee. Governor Jay Inslee, when he was in Congress, voted for the NDAA of 2012, which legalized indefinite detention of American citizens. It legalized the government arresting those people, Americans and legal immigrants, arresting them without charging them with a crime, without giving them a trial, and putting them in military detention. Okay, so he works or makes this memorial that's against indefinite detention without charge or trial, and yet he worked for and praises and supports a guy who literally voted for indefinite detention without charge or trial to happen again. Okay? Does that not strike you as like, maybe he shouldn't be representing the memorial, or at least something that we should talk about? Okay, so if the fact that I bring that up and suggest that he shouldn't be running the memorial, our public memorial, because I actually am concerned with indefinite detention, that leads him to do what you do and what your side of nut jobs all do, which is to claim that I'm stalking because I'm sharing my opinion with other people that you don't like. And so then he got the government involved, the corrupt government there, and they tried to, hem me up, made me turn in my firearms because I was saying things on Facebook that were truthful, that were not profane, that were not defamatory, made me turn in my weapons because I was sharing opinions that this politician didn't like. Okay, that's tyranny. Okay, that is the actual fascism. Okay, you like to claim that you're an anti-fascist or an Antifa guy or whatever, but no, you're not. You are actually a fascist. That is what you actually are. Okay, now you like to project that nonsense onto other people, but you are the fascist. So Clarence Moriwaki, your fellow fascist politician, you know, he engages the government. Well, I beat him in court, and then I sued the state of Washington, and I was supported by the ACLU of Washington. Okay? This is not like some fringe stuff. The fact of the matter is you and Clarence Moriwaki were wrong. And you're awful people. But in this case, you were wrong, and that's why you lost in state and federal court when I got that law knocked down for violating the First Amendment. Because a person has the right to say things that you don't agree with. That doesn't mean they're stalking. They're not stalking. They're just saying something that's truthful that you don't like because you are absolutely scared of the truth. Because your entire life is based on lies. Everything about you is a lie.
And he started posting these weird videos and things about how he's a liar and, you know, just making websites about him and whatever. So I was like, delete, block, because I didn't know who this dude was. And because I deleted and blocked him, he decided to start stalking me. So he's been stalking me since what, 2017? So 7 years now. Yeah, that's been fun.
It bears repeating that I am not stalking you. I am exposing you. I am saying things that are truthful that you don't like. Just exactly. I mean, do you not learn from your buddy, your political buddy's, losing venture? He said the same thing that you try to say, that I was stalking him because I was saying truthful things. He lost in court twice. I mean, when are you going to get it through your head? When I say something that's truthful, that you don't like, but I'm not threatening you, I'm not being profane, I'm not lying, that's not stalking. Just because I might happen to say it 10, 20, or 1,000 times, that's not stalking. Just like astronomy is not astrophysics.
He's a neo-Nazi and serial stalker.
You have no evidence for that. Neo-Nazi? What does that mean? There's nothing about me that's neo-Nazi. I've never been associated with any of those movements. I have always been anti-Nazi. What are you talking about?
Rick Reinierson is a neo-Nazi, a white supremacist, and a human piece of garbage.
It has been a long time since American History X came out, so I figured I'd make a little slideshow so that people can see the inner workings of the neo-Nazi and white supremacist world, as imagined by the delusional Houston Wade. But first, let's make this crazy assumption that weddings provide an opportunity to see how people relate and value other people. If you're a Houston Wade follower, that might be too complicated a concept, in which case just think of this as American History X Part 2. But first, let's depart Houston Wade's fantasy land, where he dreams up me wanting an ethno-state, wanting to kill non-white people, and desiring a race war, and instead step over into a little place called reality. This is my good buddy Chris and me at Mardi Gras. And here is me years later as the best man in Chris's wedding. And here is me and my wife skydiving the day before our wedding, where Chris returned the favor as a groomsman. And here is my best friend from my first operational assignment in the Air Force, Kevin, sitting behind a gay Arab Muslim and a Harvard Law graduate. But no Nazi white supremacist wedding would be complete without somebody matching that description. I love this picture of Chris dancing with his wife at my wedding. Here's my best friend from college dancing with his Latino wife. And here is a beautiful black high-powered lawyer dancing with one of my groomsmen. Little known fact, race mixing is highly encouraged in the inner circles of today's neo-Nazi and white supremacist movement. Well, if you happen to be a very deeply in debt delusional waiter at least. And of course, as a lifelong Unitarian Universalist, we were married by a female Wiccan lady because, I don't know, alt-right or something like that. Now, if I was able to convince you of the crazy notion that who people invite to their weddings is instructive of how they value people, perhaps I might also convince you the same can be said about how they spend their money and how they vote. For example, could you imagine Governor George Wallace of Alabama voting for a black man for president? I can't imagine that either. But today, it's a well-known fact that white supremacists all voted for President Obama, as I did. Saw him on the campaign trail in San Marcos while literally wearing the t-shirt, as I did. Gave Obama a max campaign contribution, as I did, and flew to D.C. to attend his inauguration, as I did. Well, it's a well-known fact if you're a liar and a defamer like Houston Wade anyway, who throws around the most damaging claims against others, child molester, wife beater, rapist, Nazi, white supremacist, etc., without a single shred of evidence and in the face of overwhelming evidence that makes his claims look delusional to those who care to do some due diligence.
He got forced into retirement from the Air Force for he back up a little bit. He's been arrested 4 times.
I have not been arrested 4 times.
For like threatening police officers and drunken disorderly and whatever.
Threatening police officers? I've never threatened a police officer. Drunken disorderly? Okay, as a lieutenant, I got arrested in a bar for questioning a police officer, and I won in court. I represented myself and I won in court. So what? People get arrested all the time by cops that have ego problems. That happens all the time. That's not evidence of anything.
While he was in the Air Force. He got arrested at a border checkpoint in Texas for refusing to roll down the window on his car.
I didn't get arrested at a border checkpoint in Texas. If I had, that would have been really helpful for my case against them. But I mean, dude, you have the entire 30-minute encounter on video. Do you not do any research whatsoever before you just run your yap? You can watch the video yourself and see that I wasn't arrested. You can read the court documents and see that I wasn't arrested.
Good. Okay. You have a safe trip, sir. Watch out for traffic. It's real busy.
Thank you.
I mean, my God, it is a good thing that you're not actually an astrophysicist, because you would be the worst astrophysicist in the world. You can't do even a hint of research. That's why you're always wrong. You don't care about what's actually true. You don't do research. You never assemble any facts. You just make it up. You're not an astrophysicist, dude. You're a storyteller liar.
He's like, no, I'm American. I don't have to do this. I'm a free traveler, like sovereign citizen bullshit.
No, I don't have to do this. Yeah, nice story there, buddy. There's video. You can see exactly how I actually handled that situation.
I'm not an American citizen, is what you're telling me.
Well, define what that means.
You have a military ID.
That doesn't mean anything.
You have this ID.
Those aren't immigration documents.
Do you want a passport?
Are you a U.S. citizen?
I am a U.S.
You
citizen.
wouldn't answer me earlier.
You never asked me if I was a U.S. citizen.
Bullshit. And so the Border Patrol arrested him. And he sued the government for unlawful detainment. And the government was like, no, it's pretty lawful detainment. You suck. And denied his lawsuit. Then he appealed. And the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals like, no, you're crazy. We're going to uphold the original ruling.
What are you talking about? Yeah, the Fifth Circuit decided that they were going to rule against me because of qualified immunity. They said that they were not going to look and see whether my rights were violated or not, or whether it was unconstitutional because of qualified immunity. That's what they said. And you make it sound like they ruled against me because that I was wrong. No, that's not how it works. Do you understand what qualified immunity is? I mean, I don't think you do, because you don't understand anything about the law, which is why you keep losing in court. You want to portray it like the Fifth Circuit ruled against me and said that I was wrong. That's not what they said. And here is Judge Jennifer Elrod at the Fifth Circuit. This is what she had to say about me.
The gentleman was not answering any questions. I mean, he said...
That's not true, counsel, is it? He never once did not answer a question posed to him, did he, counsel? There is not a single incident where he was asked a question and did not pose it. He immediately produced his identification at minute 11 after he realized that that identification wasn't satisfactory, offered to produce 2 passports. That offer was not taken up, and then there was silence. I don't understand what he did that contributed to the lengthy time that they just sat there.
And so he started stalking federal judges, but using his computer at the Air Force to do it. And so the Air Force took his security clearance and his flight status, and he basically had to walk around with MP.
This whole nonsense thing of me using computers to stalk federal judges on the Air Force and the Air Force getting in trouble, that is completely fabricated. Like, dude, there is nothing. You just completely made that up. I mean, there's the fact that the Air Force exists. I guess that's a fact that's sort of in your favor. And there's the fact that the Air Force uses computers. Outside of that, there is nothing supporting that totally made up crap that you just spewed out. I've never been in trouble for using Air Force computers in any way, and I've never stalked federal judges on any computer. What are you talking about? Why don't you put some receipts up?
He was facing court-martial and was going to have to get removed from the Air Force, or was going to face court-martial. So instead he resigned so that he didn't face court-martial.
Not only did I not do that, I was never walked around with MPs. This is all fabricated by you, and I was never under threat of court-martial. If I was, there would be some documentation to that fact. And let's also not forget, I mean, is the Chief of Staff of the Air Force saying, hey, give me the red phone, I need to call that waiter on Bainbridge Island and explain to him the intricacies of an Air Force pilot? Who are you? The FBI doesn't call you and bring up who they're going to think about charging, as you found out in court when your lie under oath was stuffed right down your throat. But you have this delusion that the FBI calls you and the Air Force calls you, and you just know the inner workings and the inside. What are you talking about? You're a fucking waiter.
But he moved from Texas to Bainbridge Island because of an article he read about this community volunteer, and who built the Japanese internment memorial. I was like, that guy's awesome. And he sent him an email, and the community volunteer was like, thanks so much for your email. So this guy moved across the country and bought the condo right behind this guy to become his best friend in the entire world. Like crazy time stuff. And
here we go again. I've responded to this nonsense lie of yours before, but you'd think that you would go and change your lie, at least make it a little bit more believable. Okay, number one, I didn't move from Texas to Bainbridge Island because I retired out of Florida, okay? Not Texas, Florida, okay? And I had purchased the condo on Bainbridge Island like 6 years earlier, while I was in the military, well before I'd ever even heard the name Clarence Morawaki. I've pointed this out to you. I've provided evidence that shows the dates. And yet you just make it up. You just keep making it up.
My stalker was like, oh yeah, no American should be arrested without, due process. This guy's my hero. So in 2013, he writes this email. It's like, you're the best person in the world. I love you so much. Let's be best friends.
While Wade provides his own inaccurate thespian characterization, it is correct that I sent a supportive email to Morawaki in 2013, thanking him for his work with the memorial before I had any idea what a bad actor he was. Remember that year, 2013, as it'll be instructive in yet another false claim from Houston Wade here momentarily.
And my friend was like, thanks for the message, whatever. Well, when this guy gets out of the Air Force 3 or 4 years later, he buys the condo right behind my friend and moves from Texas to that condo in order to become this guy's best friend.
It is true that in 2016, when I retired from the military, I moved from my duty station in Florida, not Texas, to a condo on Bainbridge Island. But I bought that condo in 2011, before I'd even heard of the name Clarence Morawaki, and before the 2013 email Houston Wade mentioned.
There was a falling out, which I think involved the community volunteer being like, I don't know who you are, and you're giving me the creeps. Can you please leave? And that was like the explosion, the, borderline personality or whatever it was that caused him to be like, oh yeah, well, I'll show you who can leave you alone, and then went totally bonkers.
Yeah, there was no falling out. We were not friends. Your politician friend, if there was a falling out, it involved the fact that he lost in court to me. Go look up Morawaki v. Rynearson or Rynearson v. Ferguson, the federal lawsuit that I won, striking down that nonsense law created by nonsense, corrupt politicians like your friend Morawaki, who lost to me in court. That'll explain the falling out. So,
anyway, he transferred that stalking from him to me 7 years ago for banning him from a bunch of groups on Facebook for, well, posting stalking stuff. And now I'm anti-free speech, and he's got websites and subreddits and documentaries, those are things.
I expose your many lies. And I do that because you spent considerable effort trying to help out your vile politician friend by spreading a bunch of lies about me on social media. I was one of the first, at least. I probably wasn't the first, but as far as I've been tracking it, I was the first to see your mouth run amok constantly as you spread a bunch of lies. Now I've watched and seen you do it to other people in the community in Bainbridge Island and elsewhere. And now I see you actually risking the financial futures of people who are too dumb. People who are dumb enough to listen to you. And I'm seeing you costing them money. And I see you, as always, just lying and lying and lying as you do. So I throw my voice into the ring as I do. And I will say things that are truthful. That's all this is. Okay, the internet, it's for everybody there, Houston. So when a person like you gets on there and starts mouthing off and spreading a bunch of lies about any topic that I'm interested in, I'm going to explain how you're lying. I'm going to put my voice out there as well. That's all that is. I know in your world, that's stalking because I'm saying something that you don't approve of, that you don't like. And if it was up to you, you would literally have government bring guns, bust down my door, kill me or throw me in jail because I'm saying truthful things that you don't want said about you or about whatever the political topic is or whatever it is. Because you are actually a fascist. Now, thank God, you're actually just a waiter fascist, okay? You are a 43-year-old loser. Your life is ticking away right before you. You have nothing. You have nobody who loves you in your life. You like to talk about other people and tell them, oh, no one loves you. And what? Dude, look in the mirror. You're not married yet. You always call other people, including married people, incels and talk about how, dude, you really need to go get checked mentally because your delusion is just absolutely staggering.
But I'm not the only one he's been stalking. He also stalked this poor guy, Brandon Bryant, who I think was on 60 Minutes or something talking about PTSD from operating drones. And one of the claims of the stalker was that he refused an illegal order, and that's why he got forced out of the Air Force, because to assassinate an American or something. And the other drone pilot, Brandon Bryant, was like, that's not what happened. You were not ordered to do that at all. I was there.
All right, first of all, Brandon Bryant was not a drone pilot, okay? He wasn't a pilot. But you never listen. You never learn. You never do any research. He wasn't a pilot.
You're saying that drone operators are not pilots. Am I correct?
No, there is a pilot, but there's two people that fly these things, and one's a pilot and one is not. And I was the not.
So what does the not do exactly?
Secondly, Brandon Bryant absolutely recognizes that I refused an order to assassinate an American citizen. I resigned my commission over it. That was the order. It wasn't this made-up thing about using computers to stalk federal judges. It is a well-known fact that I refused to murder an American citizen when I was in the military. Okay, that's not debatable. And Brandon Bryant certainly doesn't debate it. He actually approves of it and has gone on the record saying so.
He gets on my ass for obeying orders, but I was a fucking enlisted dude, bro. And you're an officer. Like, A, you should have my fucking back in this. That's how I approached it. Like, when you first approached me, Rhino, I looked at it as like, okay, I followed the orders and I'm saying that it was wrong. And here you are as an officer verifying it that you didn't follow the orders, and then you fucking shit on me.
He also obeyed a command that he felt was wrong, and I feel like that needs to be honored. And one thing about that is I didn't do that. Well, I bitched, but I did it. And I bitched. But I never once said no. And I know where that comes from for me. And I have to say that I admire Rick Rainierson for that.
And so Stalker Man made a documentary about Brandon Bryant, and they took that documentary to militia and neo-Nazi groups, like a film tour to all these different militia and neo-Nazi groups around the country.
Brandon Bryant has nothing to do with the fact that you're a liar, okay? Has nothing to do with it. But yes, I did make a documentary about Brandon Bryant because Brandon Bryant is also a delusional liar. I did not take the documentary to white nationalist groups or militias or any of that jazz. I didn't take it to anyone. I published it on YouTube like anybody else does.
And then poor Brandon Bryant was getting death threats from neo-Nazis, and his wife and children had to go in hiding.
Brandon Bryant doesn't have a wife. He's never been married.
And his parents were like, you can't stay here if they're going to come kill you. And then recently he took YouTube footage from Brandon Bryant, and he edited it together. It's like selectively edited to make it look like Brandon Bryant was threatening to kill the city council people in Missoula, Montana.
I think the word you're looking for is compiling. When you compile a bunch of threats that somebody says into one video, that's called compiling. Yes, technically it's editing. Okay, I mean, I guess you could say it's editing, but to suggest that I changed the context or put in words where there were none or took words out in order to create, that's all false, okay? The video is out there. Anybody can see it.
And then called the cops and had Brandon Bryant arrested on felony terroristic threat charges.
I never called the cops on Brandon Bryant. I never called anybody in Missoula, Montana, I had nothing to do with that. I published a YouTube video. That's it. Of course, you have no evidence for this claim because you just make it up. Houston, wait, who told you that I called the cops? How do you know that? What is your evidence? What is your source? Your audience needs to learn. They need to realize that you make things up. You just make them up. He went to jail and got charged because he made his own public video that was threatening. Now, he won in Montana. The jury decided not to punish him for whatever reason. They don't say why or whatever, because maybe it's jury nullification. Maybe they felt sorry for him. There's no doubt, though, that Brandon Bryant routinely threatens to kill people. There's no doubt about it. Now, you can quibble and say, well, he didn't specifically threaten the Missoula City Council, but come on, dude. I mean, you're totally out of your mind if you think that Brandon Bryant doesn't threaten to kill people and he wasn't actually threatening the Missoula City Council. It is obvious, and that's why he got arrested. And I had nothing to do with it. He's the one who put out the video himself, publicly live streaming it. The fact that I make a video compiling it with other things, that has nothing to do with the fact that Brandon Bryant made the threats.
So poor Brandon Bryant went to jail for months awaiting trial.
So the police officers in Montana did arrest Brandon Bryant, and he spent a year in jail.
Houston Wade continues to repeat the false claim that Bryant spent a year in jail, despite being corrected on his transparently false claim repeatedly. Bryant spent a month in jail, as Bryant's mother details on her GoFundMe page, where she documents that Bryant was arrested on 11 February 2020 and was released on 13 March 2020. It doesn't take being a part-time community college math teacher to art students to do the math and realize that does not equate to 1 year.
Gets to trial, and then his lawyer is able to prove that this was selectively edited video. That's not what he said, and the jury, of course, acquitted. And anyway, that's my stalker. So it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful to have be in the crosshairs of somebody absolutely hinged. I've tried to get a restraining order, but no one can find him. He lives in a van.
What do you think about Hunter Biden getting convicted on all of those 3 felonies?
I think they're kind of stupid felonies.
What? I have to agree. I have to agree. Beautiful day, though. Sucks to be convicted of all that bullshit.
The reason you can't get a restraining order is because it's against the law for the government to restrain me from sharing my opinion with other people about what a liar you are. Okay? It's the same thing that your vile politician friend Clarence Morawaki found out when he lost in court. Get it through your head. I have the right to say whatever I want that's truthful and non-threatening and non-defamatory about you. You. A person who's lost in 3 courts already because you lie about people online. If anyone needs to be restrained and is restrained, it's you. You're not allowed to make those same absolutely false remarks about an innocent neighbor that you don't like politically. You don't like it because he's been married and has children and he has money. All the things that you lack in your life because you are a massive, a staggering loser. And so anybody who has any sort of success, you cannot stand those people, especially if they're conservative. That's what's going on here, Houston. You can try to get a restraining order to try to prevent me from sharing my opinions about you. You can try to make up your lies, but you're going to fail, as you failed already. It is staggering how you just don't even know the most basic things about the law. Serving me? You think I'm escaping being served by driving in an RV? Is that really how it works in your mind? Dude, you are clueless. You need to stick to sweeping up pizza crumbs. That is really the level you're at.
And then another 2 decided to sue me for defamation. I was like, bring it on.
I think that's really not okay right at the moment, so I'm going to have you guys step out front.
Houston.
Okay?
Yes.
You're being served.
Thank you. Thank you. He bounces around the country in his van, and so no one can serve him. And yeah. So anyway, Pone embraced my stalker and doesn't know that astronomy and astrophysics are the same thing.
She knows that astronomy and astrophysics are not the same thing. And you might want to pretend that it's because your followers are so stupid that they don't know the difference between astronomy and astrology. And I will grant you that anyone who listens to you and follows you probably is that stupid. They are some really not smart people. But that's not why you call yourself an astrophysicist. Just like you call yourself an astrophysics professor. Because you teach math classes part-time at a community college teacher to supplement your actual paycheck as a waiter. And the real discussion here isn't about astronomy versus astrophysics, all right? Here's the real dope, okay? You have a bachelor's degree. You are not an astrophysicist, and you are not an astronomist, and you are not a scientist, and you are not a geologist. You have a bachelor's degree. Okay, that is one step up from high school. You need a master's, you need a PhD, and most importantly, you need a job where someone pays you to be an astrophysicist. The fact that years ago you got a bachelor's degree does not make you an astrophysicist, okay? You know what it makes you? It makes you a waiter on Bainbridge Island where you expedite pizzas. Get it through your head. Not everybody is as stupid as the handful of people who watch your dumb show, all right? You are a waiter, you're 43 years old, you still rent with roommates, and you're bankrupt. Okay, you are a loser. Put that on your wall.